Hello, company, and welcome to Show People, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the UK performing arts industry and those dedicated to their craft, covering the latest news and issues, what to see and do, showcasing theatrical talent, and of course, always trying to inform, educate, and entertain. My name is Andrew Keats. I'm a director and your host. Now, today's guest is a world-renowned choreographer, responsible for West End and Broadway productions of Mary Poppins, The Little Mermaid, Sunset Boulevard, Kiss Me Kate, Stephen Ward, The Pyjama Game, Betty Blue Eyes, City of Angels. I mean, we could continue reading the list, but it would go on for several hours. Ladies and gentlemen, a 5, 6, 7, 8, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Stephen Mear! Welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome.
Coming up on today's show, I'll be covering the latest dramatic news. We have a news section called Act Hacks. That's Act Hacks, not Attacks. I'll explain later. On the platform, we have a song from Summer by Jamie St. Glyn. And of course, I'll be interviewing Stephen all about his life, career, and setting him some infamous Show People podcast challenges too. You are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats and Stephen Mear. Hello, darling.
Hi.
The busiest man in show business, it would seem.
Yeah, I am at the moment, yes.
So, would you mind letting us know, first of all, rather than the obvious one, because we know there's a wind in the east at the moment, let us know about what you are working on at the moment, which is coming to Paris.
I am working on Funny Girl.
Amazing.
Which is just so wonderful. And when you work on something, you don't really realise how good it is until you get down to the nitty-gritty detail. And we're lucky to have Christina Bianco, who is a star in her own right. English cast, everything. We're rehearsing in London, and then we go on Sunday.
Oh, you're joking. Well, that's a nice gig.
Gorgeous gig.
And what is it about Funny Girl that you think that endures? Why is that show still being put on?
Yeah, you know what? I love the film anyway. I was a massive geek of the film. But I think the story's great. And we've not swapped it around. We've gone back to the original Broadway. Mm-hmm. And it's just beautiful the way they tell the story. In the books, they make him sound a lot worse than he is. Yeah. And I think the more sympathetic in the stage version. It's just gorgeous piece of theatre. And
talking about another gorgeous piece of theatre, you are back in Cherry Tree Lane.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled it's come back because it is an amazing show. And I know it's hard to say that when you're involved, but it is. And I'm so proud that I get to do it with, Richard Eyre, Sir Matthew Bourne. It's great to be all back together again.
No, I think that a lot of people don't realise, and again, this is probably with the musical theatre audiences that we have. I mean, for me, you are synonymous with Mary Poppins as choreographer. What is it like sharing a choreographer's role on such a big musical?
Well, I think that's Cameron's genius, actually, because he put us together. And I think, now I look at the show, I don't think it would have been as good if it was just one of us just doing the whole thing. I love Jolly Holiday because that's a great mixture of mine and Matthew's work together. I think it shows us completely. And it's so easy. We get on very well. And he was co-director as well. So he was kind of in the middle area, doing a bit of everything.
And tell me, what can we expect? Because I understand there's lots of new things, and I know you probably can't say too much, but what are some of the new additions that we can expect?
Well, we're bringing the tour house. We're not doing the flying in house, which I think is far better. It's a chocolate box. It's stunning. The magic's a lot better. Obviously.
Really?
Yeah, the magic's changed. It's because times have moved on, and Cameron wanted to be more magic, and it is very magical. I mean, even I was surprised watching something the other day and still couldn't work out how it worked. And the dancing we've changed. We've met, so Charlie has come in, so we've added more tap in Step in Time.
Jolly you would have been disappointed about that then.
No, but it's great, to make it their own and put their own stamp on it. And the whole cast are sensational.
Am I right in thinking that Petula Clark is now the Bird Woman?
Yes, she is. I mean, isn't that just amazing?
Yeah!
To have a legend come on in the show. I mean, she's a wonderful lady. She's loving it. She's sitting there watching everything. She's been in awe of everybody. It's just amazing to have her in the room.
I saw a really fantastic promotional video. And she said, I love the original film. In fact, that was when Downtown came out. And I was like, yes, of course it would have been.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got new new cast members. You've got Charlie Stemp, for example, taking on the role of Bert. Now, I believe that a lot of the tap that you created was with Gavin in mind. Has that changed much for Charlie?
Yes, it has. I think it was only fair to change it. I mean, a lot of it's still there. But, Charlie's just a force of nature. I mean, I've never worked with him. He's fabulous. Yeah. And, he's going to bring the house down. So we had to make it his own. So to change things, it was the only right thing to do, I feel.
He is incredible. I mean, when I first encountered him, the only other person who had that charisma and that physicality, that dance, that charm, that voice reminded me, and I know everyone says it, and I'm not the first, a young Michael Crawford in Barnum. I mean,
oh God.
In fact, he would be an extraordinary Barnum now.
Yeah, he would actually. I mean, he's fabulous. And we've added these things in, like he does the first dance section, which Gavin never used to do. And then we've added this extra tap thing. And I said, when you get to walk in the pros and be upside down and sing your top note, you're going to want to kill yourself because it's a killer. I mean, it's so hard.
I mean, the nerve it must take to do that. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't. Have you ever done it?
Well, yeah, but I had to come down. I got to the top. I don't like heights. But it was my idea to go. I thought, let's do a Donald O'Connor thing. And Bob Crowley, see, I'd love to say it was my idea. It's not. Bob Crowley said, well, why don't we take him all the way around? And I was like, how would you do that?
How? Yeah.
So we now have a swing in the studio, which we tip upside down and tap dance upside down because it's with the harness on, because it's a different feel. The rhythms are different.
So Stephen Mear's brought a swing and a harness into rehearsals. That's the title of the episode. I'm so happy it's coming back because I think it is a magical show. And actually, the moments in it that I mean, obviously the choreography is extraordinary and Step in Time is wonderful and everything that George and Ants brought to it too. But for me, it's Mrs. Banks. Mrs. Banks always hits me in the heart.
We've got Amy Griffiths, who I think is sensational. Yeah. I'm a massive fan. I've worked with her before. So I just think the family unit are so sensational. They've all brought something different to this show. And I think that's very important.
This is Bill Deemer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats.
So let's start at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Stephen Mear, where are you from? What was a young, tiny tap dancing Stephen Mear like? Did you come out the womb tap dancing? That's what I imagine.
My mum was helped at this school teaching dance. And at the age of 3, I just used to run in and out the lines. And nobody ever stopped me. And then I began to tap dance at the age of 3.
Right. So really?
That was I could tap dance at the age of 3. Only rough, but that was my thing. I was strongest at before I went to college.
And where did you grow up? What was... Loughborough?
Yeah.
Because you'd never know. The accent's gone a little bit.
Oh, I remember I'm a drama teacher first saying, first of all, you've got a stupid voice. It's so high, you've got to do something about it. And then the other thing was, you need to get rid of that stupid accent. And I think subconsciously, I just think I have slightly...
Well, I've lost my Dorset accent as well, but for good reason. Were you a happy child? Was dance always in there?
That's all I could do. I was severely dyslexic. So one way I could, which I didn't find out until I was 16, so they just thought I was stupid at school. Yeah. And literally I was told by my maths teacher, you're not going to go into your airy-fairy land of theatre. You need to get proper exams. And thanks to him, actually, it made me so determined that I was going to go into a college. Yeah. And of course, I was like one of the best dancers in Loughborough, a boy especially. Got to London and I was shit compared to everybody else.
And where was your college? Where did you train?
London Studio Centre with Bridget Espinosa when she was there.
Wow.
Who was an amazing lady.
When people hear the name Stephen Mear, of course, their first thought is choreographer and director. But, how many years did you have as a dancer? Oh. And what were of course, we could probably spend a whole episode just talking about the dance work you did. But what were the key jobs that really...
I did 2 jobs while I was at college. I did Evita in the West End and 42nd Street.
Wow.
And I remember when I got into 42nd Street, I thought I'd made it at the top of my career because that's all I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
And so to do 2 jobs while you're at college is fabulous. You're not allowed to do that now. I don't know. I did so many wonderful shows in the West. I think I did 7 West End as a dancer. I used to love doing Cats and going in and out, back in and out of that. But yeah, I'm just looking, and I got to work with the best choreographers, best directors, and some shitty directors, shitty choreographers, who I won't mention. But you learn from everything. Whatever you do, you learn how to treat people, how to respect people, how to build a company. And you really do learn if that's what you focus on. Something that I've always found really interesting, there is an unusual, maybe not so much in the musical theatre as such, but there can be a prejudice. Me as a sort of bona fide
strict director because no one wants to see my choreography. I can tell you that for nothing. But there can sometimes be like a prejudice that is held towards choreographers going, a choreographer that directs, which is just nonsense. How have you found that? Have you ever found any sort of resistance?
No, I think because I've been offered it for years to direct, and I've always said no. I won't direct something I don't know.
Yeah.
The first big one I did was She Loves Me at Chichester at the Minerva, because I knew it backwards, and I was in love with it. And the shows I've directed are shows I love. I couldn't, I was offered loads of tours of all these pop, what they call jukebox musicals. I just don't want to do them.
What do you think was the first like realization where you started to go, I don't want to be a dancer anymore, I want to be a choreographer? Was there a sort of moment or a person that influenced that?
I think I always wanted to be a choreographer. Even when I was at college, I used to choreograph things for other people's assessments. But I used to love working for choreographers as well. I mean, I kept learning, and I became a dance captain and went into that next level. And so that gets you into choreographing. I mean, I was always choreographing even when I was in shows at colleges and things.
And was there any particular role models? I know you've worked with some extraordinary choreographers. Was there anyone that you looked at that you particularly related to, that perhaps you've taken some of their ethos into your own work?
There was a guy called Norman Main who was around many years ago. We used to work with Jack Cole, and I was his assistant on Some Like It Hot.
As in the musical version?
Yeah, and I understudied Tommy Steele in that as well.
Did Stuart Peddler musical?
Yes.
He did. See, you're shocked that I know this, aren't you?
God, I can't believe you know that far back. But and Susan Stroman, who is a genius. I mean, she taught me how to do dance arrangements, and I just learned from everybody. Gillian Lynn was just wonderful to watch. All those people. I'm just so lucky. And Bob Avian, who is so generous to me to this day. So,
Stephen, do you think that time was there something sort of special about the choreographers and the choreography that we had of that time, or do you think it's all just as exciting now as it was back then?
Yeah, I think it's as exciting now. I just think there weren't as many choreographers then. It seems everybody's a choreographer now. Seriously, there are so many. I mean, when I was starting off, I was following in the footsteps of Arlene and Anthony, who were way ahead of me, and so there weren't many around. Probably me and Bill, I think, but only as two really. Now there's hundreds. But that's a good thing, because fabulous people like Drew McConey, who I adore as a choreographer, absolutely love him. He always laughs, because I always say, you keep me on my toes because of you're so good, makes me, up my ante, and because I still love what I do so much. I love seeing all this new talent coming through the ranks. I really do.
And would you say, I mean, again, watching you develop, you said you moved to London. How old were you when you arrived in London?
I was 18 when I arrived in London. Yes, I had a girlfriend.
Right,
that's funny in itself.
And you were blonde, I believe, as well.
I was blonde, yeah.
And what was life like for you when you arrived? Was it terrifying?
First, it was terrifying. One, because I was in the lowest classes for everything apart from tap. I was in the lowest classes, and I thought I was brilliant when I came from Loughborough. So that was a good. And I knew I had to do ballet, get my technique better. So I did something like ridiculous, like 14 classes a week.
What?
Yeah, because that was bonkers. But I knew that's what I had to improve on. And I got to play Mephistopheles. Not brilliantly, but I got to play it. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without a strong ballet technique.
And what were you doing to survive, to feed into paying for all those classes? What were some of the early jobs that you were taking between jobs?
I mean, my mum and dad, bless them, never had anything, and I never went without, strangely enough. And when I got to London, I remember I was on a grant. And because I got into the West End in my second year, I had to pay my grant back myself. So in a way, I paid for my own training in the end, which is quite a nice thing to say. But I would save up my money and live off beans on toast, so I could do even classes at the weekend. That's how balmy I was. I just loved it. Absolutely. And when I got to London, I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Hello, this is Francis Raphael. When I'm on my own, pretending he's beside me, I listen to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats.
So what was your first professional job as a choreographer?
As a choreographer, I did pantos at Derby Playhouse, which Mark Clements used to run. Then he offered me a show called Soul Train, or Grapevine as it was then. And it went on tour with Sheila Ferguson,
wow,
Jackie Boats, and all fabulous people like that. And Jason Pennycook They were all in it. And they went on tour. We went into the West End for 8 weeks. And my first West End show. And God was looking down on me, and it's my first Olivier nomination.
And how old were you then, Stephen?
I'd been 26, 7, I think.
So 26, 27 for your first Olivier nomination.
Yeah. That's been later. It might have been a few years later, but I think it's around that area.
Because I've got here, so again, I mean, listeners, I joke about this with some people, but I mean, I say most people's CVs that come on this show can, their CVs can be released in paperback. This can come out in hardback. I mean, the Argos catalogue is shorter. I mean, I was going through, so I've got some of the early bits and pieces here. So we've got, so you did Women in Love at Derby Playhouse, Bouncers, A Little Night Music with somebody called Julia McKenzie. Yeah. Whatever happened to her? But more interestingly, that was in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan. I totally got my best bit of advice from Julia as I was choreographing. And I was a very keen choreographer and young. And she pulled me to the side and said, Stephen, just because you have a parasol in your hand, you don't have to twirl it. Which was the biggest learning curve. And I always use that, young choreographers. It's so true. Just trusting yourself not to over-choreograph sometimes.
And you had quite a special relationship with Julia as well, didn't you? As in you became quite good friends.
Yeah, very big friends from Follies. We were in Follies together, and she kind of got me to choreograph concerts and things, and we just became good friends. To this day, we still meet, and she's a wonderful part of my life. So,
and it must. I mean, I know, and we'll certainly get into it with somebody that we were discussing before we come on air, but I won't mention now. But you really have had some of the entertainment industry's biggest heroes in your life.
Yeah.
Whether that be producers to comedians, and who I'm alluding to there, to musical theatre icons. I mean, what is it like to not only have this extraordinary career working with these people, but also having living legends, or indeed legends, as part of your life as well? How do you balance that? I mean,
at the end of the day, we're all humans, and we're what people make. It's what we make them to be. And when you work with them, they become part of a family, like in any show. So you get to know them really well. I mean, I was very blessed to know Victoria Wood.
Yeah.
Who became a really, really close friend of mine and would stay at my house and saw everything I did, criticised most of it. But she was very honest, but wonderful to work with. And, I got to do Acorn Antiques, which was a masterclass in itself, working with Celia, Julia Waters, and just a fabulous cast. You don't get training like that.
I mean, I did see Acorn Antiques. I mean, just for Julie Waters' Mrs. Overall alone.
I remember when we did the Tip Top Tap, and it's about getting faster, and the hemorrhoids kick in, and she slows the number down. And the first time we did it, we said, did the orchestra go with her or go? And it was just so funny. It just happened. Yeah. And I remember sitting there crying with all of us, with Vic, all of us, and Trevor Nunn sitting there howling,
What do you think, Stephen? I mean, again, that there are so many shows here, and no doubt they've all got a very special place in your heart. But as we're specifically looking at sort of those early jobs, what do you think was the most important early job, other than obviously the first and the Olivier nomination?
Yeah, I think when you get an Olivier nomination, that helps you. It's a step that doesn't make you any better, but it gets you noticed a bit. I think one of mine has to be Anything Goes with Trevor Nunn. It's his last show at the National. And I just only been assisting Stroh on Oklahoma and that, so it kind of kept me in mind from then. And just to go in every day, and we had 6 weeks rehearsal. God, that's heaven now when I think about it.
Yeah.
6 weeks rehearsal, and he was doing an opera, so he'd come in and see what we'd done in the morning, and he was so generous to me and so wonderful. And it was a massive hit. We didn't realise it was going to be so massive. Yeah. And then he went to Drury Lane as a fill-in, and we could have actually carried on because the houses were packed. So it was, and it's just a very special part of my, I mean, I still think it's one of the best things I've choreographed.
Yeah. And what was it like working with the great Trevor Nunn?
I've worked with Trevor 3 times, and I just adore him. For me, I think he's so generous.
Yeah.
He'll tell you if he doesn't want something, believe me, but not ever in a bad way. He's Trevor Nunn. He's a genius. I'm so lucky to have worked with him and see how he works, but so generous to me.
I saw a wonderful quote on Facebook the other day, and I'm usually not very good with sort of inspirational memes. They usually make me feel a bit ill. But it was something over the lines of, what was it? It was, pay me for the 30 minutes work that I've done because it's taken me 10 years to learn how to do it in 30 minutes.
Wow.
I thought it was such a good quote. Yeah. And the reason I'm alluding to that is so many of these early shows, which I have enormous respect for, that they're all what I would term sort of classic contemporary musical theatre. They are Cole Porters, they are Rodgers and Hammersteins, the golden era of musical theatre. And it's so interesting that the early work almost chronologically starts within these classic sort of chorus ensemble numbers, which then progress into far more modern shows, which rely upon that as the backbone of the choreography. I mean, do you think that has doing these early shows like these Cole Porters, Rodgers and Hammerstein? Do you think that is what's enabled you to do Mary Poppins, or am I just reading into it in a way that isn't true?
I think so. I think I'm a big believer. Also, the old school. I know they call it old school, but it's not. You watch anything. People say, "Oh, we do hip hop. We can do this." Look at the Nicholas brothers. They've been doing all this stuff hundreds of years. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I love it when we say, "Oh, look at this. We've done this." I can show you a video. That's old. Yeah. A clip of anybody. Betamax. I can show you a clip of any of these old, MGM people doing a certain number similar. So yeah, it's all come from there.
Who have been those dance heroes of yours? Who were the people that perhaps 10-year-old Stephen sat down on the sofa watching?
Without a doubt, it's Ann Miller, because I'm a bit obsessed with Ann Miller. And as everybody knows, Gene Kelly, Fred, Ginger, they're all amazing for me. Nicholas Brothers, I adore. Mm-hmm. I just think Sid Charisse, Vera Ellen you could go on forever, couldn't you? Watching all those. I just love the style. Hermes Pan, Jack Cole. God, that style was, you can see where Fosse gets his, inspiration from. I love the fact we all get inspiration from somebody, but you make it your own.
So one of my very favourite musicals that you were joint choreographer on with Bob Avian, which I think is one of the most underrated musicals, is The Witches of Eastwick.
I absolutely agree. Dana and John, who wrote it, who I think are geniuses. I loved every second of choreographing that. I mean, Bob wasn't there a lot of the time, and he was like a mentor for me. And I think I'd choreographed most of the show. I think he choreographed the opening, and he came back after we'd choreographed Dirty Laundry, and he watched him, and we showed him it because I wanted to show him, and he just turned to the company and said, "That's my best bit of choreography I've ever done," about himself, and so they all cheered. But he's, I love the show. And I would love to do it again, actually. I'd like to direct and choreograph it.
I would absolutely fight you for Witches of Eastwick. And do you know what it is? It is dirty laundry, but it's also...
it's everything.
It's evil. It's
so cleverly
look at
written.
Me.
Yeah.
Everything about it. What was it? Why do you think audiences didn't jump on it and love it as perhaps you and I do? Because I will still listen to it to this day.
I think when we went for Drury Lane, I think it was too big. And when we moved to
Prince of Wales
and Clark Peters came in, for me, he is just sensational. Yeah. Man, woman or dog, you love him. He's so sexy and so beautiful and such a brilliant actor, singer. And you need a triple threat to do that. And I think he had that charm. And I think if we'd have started with that show, I think it would have gone on longer. But then we had the Twin Towers happen. Of course, didn't help anybody in the West End at the time. God bless everybody involved in that, but it just didn't help. So I think that's why we ended up closing.
Hi, I'm AJ, or Anna Jane Casey, and my life in show business is crazy. I run marathons, just for the thrill. It's flicking hard, but the challenge is brill. And then, when I collapse through my door, when I've pounded the parks, streets and more, I sit and I soak up my feet while listening to the Show People podcast with the fab Andrew Keats.
It's time to pause the podcast as we delve into dramatic news! Today's top stories. Moulin Rouge, the Broadway musical, will be coming to the Piccadilly Theatre in London's West End in March 2021. Baz Luhrmann's revolutionary film comes to life on stage, remixed in a new musical mashup extravaganza. Moulin Rouge the musical is a theatrical celebration of truth, beauty, freedom, and, above all, love. As in the film, Moulin Rouge the musical celebrates some of the greatest popular music of the last 50 years. The stage musical features many of the iconic songs from the movie and also includes recent hits released since the movie premiered 18 years ago. I have to say, I have been listening to the cast recording of Moulin Rouge on Spotify pretty much non-stop, on repeat, for the past few months. It's fantastic. Sign up for more updates and for more information about this wonderful show coming to the West End by visiting moulinrougemusical.com. Award-winning theatre director and producer Jonathan Church, CBE, has announced the launch of a new production company, Jonathan Church Theatre Productions, supported by Trafalgar Entertainment's joint CEOs, Sir Howard Panter and Dame Rosemary Squire. As artistic director of Jonathan Church Theatre Productions, Church will create theatrical work including new and classic musicals and plays for the company's West End home at Trafalgar Studios, as well as other venues in London, the UK regions and internationally. He will be joined by Georgia Gatti in the role of executive producer. The Park Theatre has announced details for their first season of 2020, which places particular focus on stories surrounding race, faith and sexuality to reflect the theatre's ever-diversifying community. Highlights include the first major London revival of Bruce Norris's multi-award-winning play Clybourne Park, the transfer of the Hope Mill Theatre's musical hit Rags, and Simon Callow's play adaptation of Le Cage aux Folles. Have you got a story that you think should be featured on the Show People podcast? Well, just get in touch by emailing us at info@arian-productions.com, and we'll always do our best to share your story with our listeners. So you mentioned her earlier, and it is such a wonderful show. Acorn Antiques, the musical.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say, discuss, because I know it's an important show.
I mean, it was just wonderful. Everything about it, like I said, it's a masterclass in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
To sit with those people and see how they all work. Duncan and Celia and Julian, big writing things on the spot and asking me, is that funny? I used to find that amazing, which she'd say, is that funny? It was just fabulous. Everything about it. Couldn't wait to get into work every day. Sat there like a puppy, learning, watching. You know, got Trevor Nunn as director, Victoria Award. I mean, kind of everybody's dream, really, isn't it?
And what is it about Victoria Wood's work that is so charming, that does relate? Because you've said to me, you know, off mic, that she could come across as quite cold sometimes. Yeah. What was that presence like creating the show?
It's funny because I didn't see her as cold. I only knew what other people thought. It's because she was quiet and she's shy. But she would say, you can't miss that "and" out in there. That's, you know, that word is funny. You can't paraphrase. And I said to her one day, why you're really strict? And she said, well, you're doing tap rhythms. You're going to pick somebody up on a pickup or a beat that's missing. And I thought, well, fair dues.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's why. And she was unless she got to know you really well. And I was lucky to get to know her really well.
And used to socialise together after the show. Tell me what it was like.
I mean, there was times we'd sit at her house. She would make me watch the most stupidest thing because she loved watching people in real life that were just ridiculous. Like we'd sit and we'd get drunk and we'd watch songs of praise. There's a number where they're singing "Who Will Buy" going up an escalator and somebody falls and somebody is just hysterical. But she got it and play it back to you. All these things that she'd watched. Brilliant. I mean, you can see where she gets all her ideas from real life.
Now, I'm going to put a clip. I will put a link to this clip because I was delighted the other day following you on your Twitter account, which was you and Victoria were dancing as Margaret and Nick from The Apprentice to a sort of soft shoe version of The Apprentice theme tune.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, she just said, well, I was going to choreograph the last number, Frida and Barry, with all the fat tap dancers, as it were. They weren't all fat; they were all padded. I think they were, and
maybe one or two. Yeah.
But then she said, "Would you fancy doing a duet?" And I'd not danced performance for ages, and I went, "Really?" And I said, "Do you think it'll be funny?" And I just remember looking over her music at me. I said, "What do you think?" So we did it. I was so nervous, and actually, there's a clip when they brought the DVDs out. There's a clip of the outtakes. And she's put on the bit where I go so wrong, despite, I'm convinced. But it's such a great piece, and I'm so proud. And I'm so proud that I did it. And, you know, it's a wonderful piece, you know, to have something to remember her by.
And obviously you meant a great deal to her. And I think that's rather wonderful to have such an authentic connection all born out of
Yeah.
being part of a tribe that was Acorn Antiques.
Yeah, lovely. And she used to, when I was working in America, she came and spent Christmas with me, and and brought her son and daughter, and it was just lovely. She was a very big friend of mine, and my associate, Sammy Murray.
Now, this is a show that I don't think many people over here have had an opportunity to talk about because we never got to see it, and that is The Little Mermaid.
I loved it. I mean, I you know what? It was overdeveloped. I think, we had opera people design it, and it was beautiful, and it was massive. And we had fabulous prototypes in rehearsal, and everything moved and floated, and everybody in the show was wonderful. If you see the EPK, it's fabulous. I mean, it's fabulous. And but it was just so expensive. You could never move it anywhere. I mean, you really couldn't, I don't think. But I was blessed that Tom Schumacher from Disney had watched what I'd done on Poppins and offered me The Little Mermaid. So it was a shame it didn't run longer for me, but we had the strikes. We had somebody fall from the top of the set. We had lots of accidents.
See, that was true, because I know quite a few people
it was horrible.
think
The guy fractured his whole back and everything. Thank God it was somebody with a muscly guy that did it, because he would have been a goner. And people were traumatized. So there was one thing after another. We had strikes, and it was the time when the Times were hating Disney about trying to take over Broadway. And so they were kind of moaning about it before we even started rehearsal. So it was a shame, because I think it was a stunning show, and I still believe it is.
And it's a wonderful score. I mean, you can't, there is some beautiful music in that show.
And Sierra Baguette, I just love her. She was amazing.
Do you think it will come back? Do you think we'll see it again, but in a different iteration?
Well, they did a tour of using all new creatives, because I think they kind of did wire work for this underwater, which I said that I wouldn't be able to do that. And one day I was walking through Disney and I saw a kid on those heelers, and I chased it, asked the parent what the kids were wearing. So that's how we got to use that as our underwater language.
And what's it? So did you buy yourself a pair of heelys and learn how they work?
Yeah, I was rubbish. But we had them custom made once we got to work for Disney.
Yeah,
we had all boots made, and it was wonderful. First few days was disastrous, but after amazing what they could do on them in the end. Amazing.
Surely you forget that they're there, and then you end up falling arse over tea every other time.
Yeah, I think they only do that twice. But it was just a fabulous way making the language for the underwater world.
Now I'm gonna jump to something which I didn't know about, and this listeners, I mean, make sure you're sat down at the moment. So who knew that Olivier Award-winning Stephen Mear also has directed and choreographed a video for Goldfrapp?
I didn't direct it.
Oh, sorry, didn't direct, just
choreographed it. And
just choreographed a Goldfrapp video. Yeah, because that sounds worse.
I know you say that. I had no idea who Goldfrapp was.
No, I'm not sure if I do, but I know.
Until my partner said, "Stephen, sit down. You need to see this girl. She's fabulous." And I got to do that and the Oasis video. I got offered two pop.
And so which Oasis video was it? Because
it's The Importance of Being Idle.
Right.
It's the one where they're only playing small parts in it. It was fabulous to do.
And that was nominated for what was it?
Music.
NME, a Shockwave's NME Award for Best Video.
It won.
And then it was also nominated for a Q Award.
No.
Who says musical theatre skills are not transferable?
No, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Not at all. I mean, there's plenty of other things that I mean, there's some things that I'm not sure what they are. I mean, there's obviously the various television bits and pieces that you obviously did with Victoria Wood. But you've done the Tracy Ullman show.
Yeah, I did the library number where they all tap dance in the library. Her and Jenny Dale were the two old librarians.
I mean, I don't know what Monster Cafe is, do you?
Oh my God, that was crikey, I'd forgot about that. That was an old TV show for kids.
No.
Yeah. And Mega Maths. There was a kids' TV show that I did, which, believe it or not, earned me so much money because it won an award for teaching kids math. So it kept being repeated. So I was thrilled about that one. We're talking hundreds of years ago.
And I imagine your proudest work is, of course, the advert for winkbingo.com.
Saying that again, that's Jenny Dale again that's in that.
So I'm going to...
my lordy.
See, I've been doing my research, I've been going through your website. It's very, very handy. Now, this is a show which I really, really loved. And again, and I just thought it had such a great heart, and that's Betty Blue Eyes.
Oh, wonderful.
It's just the most unfair thing that particular show closed so early.
I remember Cameron saying that's had some of the best reviews he's ever had in a show.
Yeah.
and couldn't work it out. Sarah Lancashire, amazing.
Reece Shearsmith.
Oh my God, they're all fabulous. I mean, another show, Sir Richard Eyre. Again, I get to work with him. I've worked with him a lot, and he's a genius as well. And the whole process was fantastic. Cameron was joyful all the way through that. He was so happy with it, and and then it doesn't last long, and you kind of break your heart because it is genius. And once again, Styles and Drew are, I mean, for me, I adore them, and I think they're fabulous. But it's some of their best work, and it's just wonderful.
And also, I will say, listeners to the show, I've been so moved recently seeing George's incredible progress. I've obviously recently suffered a stroke, and I know we both send so much love his way, of course.
And he walked in. See, I was in Chicago when he'd had his stroke, so I went to see him when he was not very well. And his recovery has been amazing. And he walked into the Poppins rehearsal, and he looks fabulous. And, as I knew he would be.
Well, we have a slight connection, actually, with this, in that when I was a baby, I think I was 22. I'm 33 now. But when I was 22, one of my first things I did with George and Nance was Just So.
Oh, I did that.
Obviously, you did
Chichester,
the one at Chichester. God, it's a joy. It's a wonderful
show. Oh my
show.
God, Wait a Bit. The song Wait a Bit just rips my heart apart. I love it. I've done Honk for them as well.
There's something about Just So that is just so clever, though. And
genius.
They're so good at summing up love and children and wit and I mean, they are mighty fine.
Absolutely.
Duo. And send them lots and lots of love. Well, let's go back to Betty Blue Eyes. I mean, why? Why do you think people didn't, because obviously everyone who saw it loved it.
I think everybody, it could have been the advertising because it was just a pig on the front,
Babe the musical.
Well, yeah, could have. I mean, you never know what people are thinking if it's a new show. You never, and I think it's a shame we didn't have the original name. Private Function is known, the film. So I don't know. Who's to say? I just think it's a shame it didn't work because I loved working on it and I loved everything about it, I have to say.
I also love the charm of having Kylie Minogue as the voice of a pig. That's clearly something that somebody very high up thought was very funny and a nice idea to do.
It might be Cameron's idea.
Let's get Kylie. Sure. Now I am going to ask about this because I want to know because I'm going to put them in the same category-ish in that they're both flops, but one perhaps very different to the other. Now, Stephen Ward, the musical. Why? Why was I thought what you did. I thought the choreography was wonderful, and actually, for a play, I kind of get really excited and go, "This could be a stunning play."
How you see? That's what I thought. And after working on it, I suddenly thought, I think this would have been a better play.
Yeah.
Although, you want it to work when you're working on something. And of course, you don't do anything for it to be a flop.
No.
But I after looking at it, it could have been an amazing play. And Alex Hansen was sensational.
And it was so, the person actually that I felt the most sorry for was not you guys from Stephen Ward. It was Kenny and everyone that was involved in Top Hat. Because, of course, what had happened is all the Olivier nominations had finally come in. And there was going to be Top Hat. And then obviously the theatre was taken back for Stephen Ward. Yeah, and you were just like, oh God, no, this is finally the moment the Top Hat can have, and in comes Stephen Ward.
And Joanna Ryding was sensational in that as well.
So let's go on to something, moving swiftly on, I believe is what.
To another flop.
Let's talk about Tonight's the Night. No.
Oh Christ, that wasn't a flop, strangely. But there you go.
But that's the point, isn't it? Do you know what the funny thing is? Sometimes I think we can really invest because actually those shows, as much as we can laugh about them because of whatever, I mean, ultimately pieces that were invested a lot of love, a lot of time, a lot of care, a lot of hard work, blood, sweat and tears to make them. And yet sometimes you can get a show which perhaps, is we think is nice and easy, maybe a bit jukeboxy or whatever. Yeah. And that's the hit versus, and almost the amount of effort and craft that we put into making them isn't...
It's the same people that did We Will Rock You. And I think they thought we were going to get the same effect with Rod Stewart musical. So we used to call it We Will Rock You. But, there'd be things in it, I'd just done anything goes and it didn't take off like they wanted. It only lasted about a year and a half, I think.
Yeah. But then, I mean, even nowadays, that's actually quite impressive.
Oh my God, nowadays. Yeah. I mean, the audiences were like, you wouldn't believe on a Saturday night. They'd gone there to drink and sing.
Now, something that I now know from doing my research, so you were also an associate artist at Chichester.
Yeah, for many years.
I mean, obviously, you mentioned She Loves Me, which I know you were extremely proud of. What were some of the shows that you got to do, and what was it like being so involved with Chichester?
How to Succeed I got to do.
Wow, great.
Music Man with Rachel Kavanagh, which was sensational. Funny Girl with Sam Spiro. So it's strange that I'm doing that. It was years ago. And the funny thing is, I can't remember anything about it.
Really?
Not one thing, apart from Sam being brilliant.
Right.
Oh, God, I've done loads there. Honk. No, Just So, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I've done quite a lot there.
And how did that work? Was that just commuting in, or did you move to Chichester?
Well, I lived in Brighton, so it was like 40 minutes door to door. And, I did Kiss Me Kate that went into town, Pajama Game that went into town.
Yeah.
God, there's loads now, I'm rolling. But I was there for 9 years. And it was great to be an associate because I got other choreographers in and creative teams. And, I used to love doing that.
Do you find that's important in your work now, Stephen? As in, I know you take on lots of associate artists and assistants to work.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important for people with your level of experience too? I mean, Kevin Spacey called it, send the elevator back down, which is perhaps there's a better way to put it. But do you think it's important to get people involved in shows that are perhaps younger or an intermediate stage?
How to doubt. I used to say, because at Chichester, I used to go for them all. And I used to say, there are other choreographers out there. I got Andrew Wright in to do 42nd Street. I got quite a few people in to do like plays, staging. And I think it's part of your job.
Yeah.
And also I only want to do shows I want to do. I wouldn't say no if I loved them, but I jump in first.
Hello, this is Kim Ismay, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats, and I hope you're having a wickedly interesting time.
I wonder how many people know, particularly from the musical theatre world, just how many plays you've been involved in, both as a movement director and, of course, a choreographer. Going through, I mean, obviously The Vote is the one that I had no idea you had done that.
Yeah, but that was literally just moving chairs and sorting the bow out and entrances and exits. It wasn't much, but I was there for support for Josie, who was sensational through the whole thing. And I did Arturo Ui there, which was a lot of movement in. And, I loved it. You learn so much from plays, Amadeus at
That's
Chichester,
exactly what my finger is on
which
at the moment.
was sensational. I have to say, was fabulous, and it was great to be involved.
I mean, again, this is why I think you're so interesting, and I think this podcast is nice to address because, of course, you must hear so often, "Oh, Stephen Mear, the choreographer," but there really is some substantial work here as a director of straight dramas, difficult pieces. I mean, The Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui is not something that is an easy play to pull off.
When I read it, I couldn't work it out at all until we got in the room with Simon, and it was just fabulous. Lenny Henry, amazing. I know the whole cast were, but it was just fabulous, and there was a lot of movement in that and staging.
So was that Lenny playing Ui? Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I thought it was really off the wall and very different.
What a brilliant piece of casting.
Yeah, amazing. And he was brilliant as well.
I want to talk about your endless relationship in a really marvellous way with the ENO. So you've been fortunate enough to do both Chess and Sunset Boulevard with the ENO.
Yeah, and on the Town.
This is something that somebody was telling me who was involved in one of the when they started to put the musicals on, the once a year musicals, and everyone was, lots of frowns from the current audience goers, and it was just such a different way of working with musical theatre performers, perhaps say than in the West End. So sometimes the way that West End performers are spoken to in the way that they would say in the opera scene can be a little bit jarring.
Yeah.
How different is it doing musicals in an opera environment?
Well, I did learn because I'd heard that some of the opera choruses stopped working for choreographers sometimes. And I just thought, well, I'd go in and try and learn as many names as I could just to win some. I got photos and I did that. And they always seemed to be, because I did that, they were lovely. And when I went back for Chess, they were just fabulous. So I really enjoyed it. So I kind of, that was good. Good advice. Richard Eyre said when I went to New York to work at the Met, he said, just go with it. It's like a runaway train, just go with it. Learn as many names because they treat people like cattle. When I went to New York to do the Fledermaus at the Met, I was petrified because it's massive. And Richard Eyre said to me, just go in. It's like a runaway train. Just go in it. Be yourself, Stephen, but learn as many names as possible. So I did. And they were like, wow. I mean, I didn't get everybody's, but I made a good attempt. And I kind of won them over. But also I went in there with a set thing of what I was doing, set patterns and, whereas normally they're just herded around like cattle.
And how do you feel about the size of so many of those productions? I mean, Sunset Boulevard in particular was enormous. And I have to say, to experience that show with that size orchestra, it was an extraordinary experience. I mean, I don't think I'll ever be able to hear that show again with such a symphony.
And it was wonderful having them all on stage. That was amazing. And the set was simpler. It was dark. And so you concentrated on the lyrics and the actors. And I think that's what made it different to the original West End one. And she was a force of nature. Oh, my Lord. She was wonderful, a wonderful lady. And I remember having to practice. I taught her the tango and we were doing it. And she'd point to me and say, come on, let's do it. And we do the tango. But she'd treat me as Joe Gillis. And I wasn't little gay Stephen dancing with her. I was Joe Gillis. And she'd be flirting with me.
This is Glenn Close.
Yeah, this is Glenn Close. And it was, at first it used to freak me out, but then I got used to it in the end. But she was wonderful.
And there was a little bit of controversy, obviously, surrounding that production in that Ria Jones, who I know is both a friend of ours, obviously when Glenn Close fell ill and Ria went on, the reports were that some audiences were, up in arms, that they'd paid all this money. And then...
Oh, it's funny how that happened. I remember, because Ria's a very close friend, so when she went on, I remember my palms sweat for the first time ever in my whole life. When they booed, not everybody, just a few people like Americans who had come from America booed or something. But by the time she did her first number, everybody was...
quite relaxed.
Yeah. She did the same amount of bows, completely the same amount of bows, and the audience went mad for her. So...
And I mean, Ria is somebody I have enormous respect for and deep love for her. But the lovely thing was also when then the Sunset Boulevard tour
and
came
she did
about.
That. I think Andrew wasn't going to let it go out unless it was Ria.
Really?
But I've just worked with her on Guys and Dolls because she's, she did the tour of Acorn Antiques.
Yes.
As Julia Walters.
Yeah, because she still got the tray. I think she nicked it. There was this full tray.
She did the tour of that, but she'd just done Guys and Dolls for me in Paris. And I think that's the best thing I've ever seen her do.
Really?
Because she's a brilliant comedian.
Yeah, she is. And a force of nature.
And about to do Gypsy in Manchester. I think she's going to think I'm her agent today.
Hello, my dears. You have the ineffable and probably undeserved pleasure of listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats. This is Stephen Fry wishing you a wonderful listen. Thank you.
It's time for a Show People podcast announcement. It's a brand new semi-regular section called Act Hacks. Not life hacks, not attacks, but act hacks. Little things that might help you survive this mad business we call show. So whenever I hear of money-saving tips, everyday tasks, life hacks, and any other nuggets of advice, I will share them in this little feature. How would you like the Show People podcast to get you £50 off your next electricity bill? Well, after moving into my new flat, I realised the hundreds of pounds I was wasting with the major 6 energy providers. So I conducted a lot of research and I discovered Bulb. They are fantastic. This is a personal recommendation. This is not a paid for advert. This is just genuine advice. All of their electricity is green, renewable energy. Their customer service is phenomenal and I really have saved an absolute fortune. Visit www.bulb.me/AndrewK0302 and you will get £50 off your next energy bill if you switch. And it literally takes 2 minutes to transfer over to them with absolutely no transfer fees. Save yourself a fortune, save the planet, and visit bulb.me/AndrewK0302 and save £50 off your next bill and save money for the future. That's today's Act Hack. Look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. So I think it's safe to say that there are some shows which are theatrical events where they are both epic in scale and in integrity. And the show that I would apply that to most of all of your work is Gypsy.
Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to get that. I desperately wanted it. I remember having my meeting with Jonathan Kent saying, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
I was very American and and did non-apologetic English person. And he said, well, it's yours. It was never going to be anybody else's. So I remember skipping out of the club where we met, thinking, wow, I can't believe it. And then I got to work with Imelda, Laura Pulver, who, they're just, and I remember the first read through and we all sat there. And I remember my hairs on my arm went up in the read through. And I went home I said to my partner, Mark, I hate to say this, but I think we might have a hit on hands. We haven't even put it on the floor yet.
No.
Because it was something so special.
You just know, don't you? It is that first read-through. Sometimes there is a feeling where you go, it's almost palpable.
The power between Imelda and Lara was just ridiculous. Lara matches her at the end in those last scenes.
Yes, she does.
And just Imelda was a powerhouse. And I remember just sitting there crying one day in rehearsals at her doing Rose's turn, having the breakdown. And we did it in a different way to how it's been done before. But we kept true to it and we did it all, I suppose people would say old school, but we kept true to the piece. We really did.
It's one of the finest visually on-stage collaborations I think I've ever seen. Like from the lighting to the sound design to the orchestrations to the choreography, the staging, the direction.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Every single element within it.
I think that's so important with it. My favourite word is collaboration.
Yeah, me too.
You can always tell if the director and the lighting or the sound all hate each other. You can tell. Or if the choreographer and the director, does a number, it's like a light switch coming on when the number starts. You should never know where Trevor Nunn or Jonathan left off and I took over, and we always kept that as a main thing.
But there were so many simple details that I almost wonder if people had ever considered, such as when a character exits, for example, which was so beautifully detailed in the staging. You could almost see the commas within the staging, both musical and the straight scenes.
We went through it with a fine,
extraordinary.
Fine detail, every fine detail.
The exit at the end of Rose's turn is actually a massive difference. Yeah. And the amount of times I've said to people, that's not what's normally done.
Yeah, I know.
And they went, but how could they do it any other way? That must be the highest compliment because that did change things. And I was so impressed with the bravery of that decision.
And I remember sometimes saying, I remember listening to a conversation.
That's a nice thing to say, though. I remember sometimes saying.
No, but I was doing, he came and watched all our last few rehearsals.
What was that like?
Well, I met him when I did Follies because I got to understudy and we met him then. So,
but you weren't you weren't a choreographer.
No. And he did point out a couple of things which were great. But then I remember saying, what's amazing about Imelda? She's not scared to be ugly.
Yeah.
And that's so important as an actress because some of them don't want to be, however mean they are. She's fabulous. She takes you on a roller coaster through that show.
We have to put Imelda Staunton where she is, perhaps one of the finest living actors of our day.
Yeah, I think she's fabulous.
She's
another Julia McKenzie for me.
Yeah, and the strength of her performance, extraordinary. Everything about her was so well informed. And
you go into a room at the end of the show, and she'd say, "Have you got any notes?" And she'd be sitting there in a dress gown. She looked like she'd been beaten up because she was exhausted.
Yeah,
I don't think she had any life for the 6 months or however long it was on for.
I think it was Lucy May Barker said to me when they were doing Sweeney Todd, which of course she did with Michael Ball, that she was an extraordinary, what I would call a traditional leader of the company.
Oh yeah,
so she would throw parties. She would make sure that no birthdays would miss.
No,
there was always something.
We're definitely our family. She tells you off like a family, not in a bad way, but if people have holidays and things, she treats you as her family, and she's wonderful. I loved her.
Do you ever get worried, Stephen? It's funny. I know you and I have worked with various drama schools, and quite sometimes we're aware of working with people that are sometimes subservient to us. But when you've got people like Julia McKenzie, like Imelda Staunton, in front of you, do you ever get moments where you find yourself going, "Oh, can I say anything?" The intimidation must be there sometimes.
I kind of get to know them. Like I knew Imelda through Vic, so I'd kind of got to know her. Julia, I got to become, I don't know, not because I became friends with them, you see.
Yeah.
So I wasn't scared to say, well, I disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
Now, not many people would say that to Imelda, but I could say when we were doing Rose Tone, we had a few disagreements, but not in a bad way. It was talked about. Then she go, oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. But a lot of people wouldn't do that, but I suppose I was lucky enough because I knew them well enough. You know, it's funny because I was working with Imelda and I thought, God, what am I going to do after this? I worked with Vic, I worked with Imelda, and then I got off at Sunset. Yeah. And next minute I'm in a room with Glenn Close. Yeah. that was a bit of a, that made me go, oh shit, crikey, I can't. With my assistant, I said, God, can you believe what we do?
This is West End Producer, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with the sumptuous, the savoury, and the slightly sugary Andrew Keats, dear.
Stephen, we've covered so many aspects of your career, but now I just want to talk about your artistry. I mean, what do you want people to remember Stephen Mear for?
It's being good at what I do. I love creating great shows. I love doing classy shows. And I'm very lucky I get to do a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I am blessed. And what I always think I'm blessed with is the casts I get to work with. And I've been very lucky that I always get to work with the best people. So there's half your job done as well. If you've cast an amazing cast, you know, it's just great. I'd just like, to be remembered for doing really good, classy work.
I'm literally in the middle of casting something at the moment, and one of the writers was getting quite anxious, and I said, you know, it's very important to me casting. They said, why? I said, because that's 90% of my job done. What do you think has been this turning that on its head? What do you think has been your biggest failure, and how did you get yourself out of it, whatever that event was?
I can't remember if it's my biggest failure.
Or a moment in your life, perhaps, where you've gone,
yeah, I remember doing On the Town at ENO, and I'd just done loads of shows that had lovely reviews. And because I wasn't a ballet choreographer, I got slated the first time around. I mean, slated. And and then I stopped reading papers. I actually thought, I'm going to have to go back to the ensemble, being third to the right again, because I was that upset. And I thought I'd done such a great job because I'd done all these ballets. And then this proves how fickle the newspapers are. It was mostly the dance critics, not all of them. But I remember in the meantime, I'd won an Olivier with Matthew for Poppins. And it went back 2 years later. And then I was suddenly, he's become the best person. You know, he's at the top of his game now. He's pulled all the stops out. I'd done change 16 counts and 2 men in the chorus. That's all I'd done. But the reviews were so contrasting. And I was like, oh, wow, that's ridiculous.
Do you care what people think, Stephen?
I used to. I think I used to. I stopped reading them for about 5 years. When I became a director, I thought, you should read them, Stephen, just in case. You've got to take the good with the bad. I mean, like anything goes. It was like my mother had written all of them. It seriously was. And then I did Tonight's the Night. And it was like anybody that hated me had written them. So you just, nobody does a job for it to be rubbish. And I just think you just give your heart and soul. So it's hurtful sometimes, and it's out of your hands after press night. But I just go out there and want everything to be the best. I want everybody in the show to be the best. It's never just about the dance.
And tell, for anybody that's listening that wants to be a choreographer, so they can be hot on your toes like some of the others that you mentioned. I mean, what is the authentic advice? Because it's very easy sometimes for us to give these mantras which sound great but don't. But fundamentally, for people who want to be a choreographer, obviously everyone has their own roots. But what advice do you have?
I mean, if you love it so much, as I still do to this day, follow your passion, believe in yourself, find out about other choreographers and what they've done. Do your homework. I think that's so important. Don't find saying, "Oh, I'm just going to choreograph this." Find out who choreographed the film, who did what. They're so interesting going through history of dance and the people who are around you. But passion is just follow your heart. And collaboration, like I said. Don't just think of, if you're going to a show, it's not just about dance. It's about working with teams. And they can make your numbers look fantastic as well.
And in regards to reaching out to the industry, I mean, of course, you've got some, there will be some dancers now who perhaps maybe are just leaving the chorus now and thinking to themselves, actually, do you know what? I'd like to choreograph. What kind of opportunities do you know of that they can seek out, or what kind of routes do you think are available to emerging choreographers now?
Like I said, it's harder now for me to say that because when I was around, there weren't many choreographers.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be a choreographer at the moment. But if you are passionate and you love what you do, you need to find a good agent.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. Nowadays, it's about good agent. And advertise yourself. I mean, that's the way it's going, sadly. I mean, I'm a Facebook whore, but I love it for photos and seeing my friends. But, you think, why have you got to sell myself? I'm 110 years old. And of course, you suddenly look at everybody else and think, oh, well, I suppose I ought to advertise what shows I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think you have to do that and just get your noticed or on the ladder. It's a different world now. I mean,
and from looking at when you began as a 3-year-old tap dancer, which I just adore as an image, to the man that's in front of me now. I mean, what have been the key life lessons? And how have things changed? And how have you got to where you are now?
I don't know. I think it's because I adore and love everything I do. I mean, some people... I remember when I used to watch Follies from the Wings, and I'd watch Julia McKenzie and Eartha Kitt, and I remember a couple of the chorus boys were really mean to me and said, oh, you've got no life. Why are you standing down there? And I think, well, I think I might have the last laugh. But I mean, it's because I had that passion and hunger, and I had a hunger to learn from good and bad, and I wanted to be good. I want to be known as one of, a good choreographer. We're not allowed to say that in England. Americans say it all the time. For some reason, we don't. I want to be known as a good choreographer, and passion and love.
It's funny you say that, because there's a phrase which I hate. In fact, listeners to the show will probably know what I'm going to say. But there's a phrase that I hate that a lot of younger kids say now. They say, oh, you're so stagey.
Yeah.
And you want to go, and it really upsets me, because you want to go, it's not stagey. It's called love. Like, it's called simple. It's okay to love this job and be passionate. There's some people who say, oh, it's just a job. And you want to go, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? It's too important now.
And there's that other thing of that musical theatre actors aren't actors. Well, that's wrong, because I could prove you any day now. Nearly most of my friends have got such a mixed CV now of doing plays and things. That drives me insane, that old-fashioned snobbery.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad now, but there was a case that, but they're not real actors.
Which again is such, it is just such nonsense, isn't it? And it's so
short-sighted, it's stupid.
And especially nowadays, especially with the level of training and the levels of opportunities. And for God's sake, we were just talking about Imelda Staunton.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. There you go.
I don't think she's going to be turned down at many interview stages, do you know? Is Imelda getting a recall? I think she might.
Hi, this is John Barr, and you're listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats.
It's time for the Show People podcast platform, the part of the show where we like to give airtime to showcase new writing. And today's song is by Jamie St. Glyn. Jamie is studying on the acting musician course at the Guildford School of Acting, my own school, who hopes to continue composing and workshopping his musicals after he graduates. This musical is called Summer, and follows a young actor called Liam failing to make it in the industry. I'm sure we can all relate to that sometimes. But in that failure, finding out that his family is more important than anything else. Jamie wrote this musical when he was 17 and going through a hard breakup. And he wanted to turn something that was causing him a lot of pain into something that would give other people joy. The song is performed by Ben Lewis, a final year actor musician who, like Jamie, is an enthusiastic composer too. The song is called Goodbye Rachel, and at this point in the show, our main character Liam has returned to the place where he first met his first love to try and find closure after she left him in order to pursue her career. So here's Goodbye Rachel from Summer by Jamie St. Glyn.
So this is the lake where the memories took place. Hard to believe, but I recall you touching my face and talking about the day and laughing as we just allow time to slip away. And you'd sit there watching me with that look in your eye, or have your head on my shoulder when you needed to cry, and I gave my heart and soul, but now it is time to say goodbye to Rachel. So I'll forget about the first time that you kissed me, and I'll pretend I don't have memories of making love. Rachel. So I learned to love you before I learned to love myself. And now I have everything, I'll put my feeling on the shelf. Focus on this career, well how can I focus when I'm wishing you were here? Suddenly I learned that you might have memories too, but I'm sick and tired and scared to death of chasing you. If what I heard was true, why aren't you here by the bench that I have felt for you? So I'll forget about the first time that you kissed me, and I'll pretend I don't have memories of making love. I'll pretend that falling in love with you didn't matter, 'cause it didn't make a difference at all. Goodbye, Rachel. Goodbye, Rachel. Goodbye, Rachel.
Beautiful. You can find Jamie on Facebook, and he has a page called Jamie Singlin, Composer for Hire, where you can find some of his other songs, including one he's written very recently. And you can also find him on Twitter. Now, I love this handle, at Stephen Songlin. That's Stephen with a PH, just like Mr. Mear, and that's Songlin, Songlyn. Are you a new writer or composer who would like your work featured on the Show People podcast? Well, please just get in touch by emailing info@arian-productions.com.
Hi, this is Rob Houchin, and you are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats.
Stephen Mear, it is time for my favourite things. I'm going to strand you on tour in Whitley Bay. I want to know what you need to survive in your digs. Now, you will get a copy of any religious text that you so wish, either to read or use for firewood. You will also get the complete works of William Shakespeare. But I want to know what your favourite album, film, TV box set, game, book, play, musical, and luxury item is. Starting with, what album would you take with you?
I would take Sammy Davis Jr.'s album. Amazing. If you listen to it's just amazing.
What is it about Sammy Davis Jr. that, I mean, obviously there's people know from the Rat Pack and things, but what is it?
His own album is amazing, singing all those songs, making them his own, putting his own mark on it. It's choreographed too. I used to use them in colleges. I just think it's so exciting. I used them in Sinatra. I used a couple of his numbers, like Lady is a Tramp. They're just fantastic versions.
And what would be the film?
I think the film, Hello, Dolly.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
That I nearly said that was bizarre.
I was so sad when we did it at the Regent's Park. I knew all the words. Tim Sheedy went, Stephen. Really old, scary. Everything, even things that were different from the film to the stage version. I knew all of it.
I mean, I still think Put On Your Sunday Clothes has to go down. It's one of
it's gorgeous.
One of the finest numbers in musical theatre.
It's fabulous.
Have you had the new Broadway orchestrations of it?
No, but I did go to see it.
Oh,
I went to see Bette Midler do it.
Stunning.
Yeah, it was great. I mean,
in fact, listeners, the new Broadway with the Bette Midler version is on Spotify. Please treat yourselves and listen to Put On Your Sunday Clothes, because it's perfect walking through busy street music. It just lifts you, and it is a wonderful story. I knew you were going to say Hello, Dolly. How funny. Okay, a TV box set.
Friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what?
I think it's brilliantly written.
Wasn't it? Well, that's the funny thing. So with Netflix, there's like a whole new generation that are discovering it, aren't they?
I know that's silly.
They never did a musical episode, did they?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that, although I don't really like it very much, Stephen.
Can you?
No.
I just thought it was so written for all of them, or 6. All of them were just written so well, the parts.
I mean, it is one of the most successful comedies ever
I
written.
love Will and Grace, of course.
Well, that's a different matter entirely. I mean, I've based my life on Karen. And what game? Now, you can take either an electronic game or you can take a board game. You can play with your batty landlady and your digs in Whitley Bay.
With Monopoly.
I'm
an old-fashioned girl.
Which piece? The old dog or the old boot?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, what would be... now this is a lovely one. What play would you take with you?
Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, lovely choice.
I love Arsenic and Old Lace. I was obsessed with it, seeing it. I remember seeing it at Leicester years ago and became obsessed with it.
That's due a revival, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fabulous piece of theatre.
And no one's allowed to do that. That's Stephen. So anyone thinking of doing Arsenic and Old Lace, you can't do it because you heard it here. Back off. And what would be the musical? So you've got the film version of Hello, Dolly.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me, what does it mean? I always like to say, well, let's just say there's a little cupboard and when you open it, you get to watch an actual musical performed and then you get to close them away.
White Christmas.
White Christmas.
I love Vera Ellen. Those dance routines in White Christmas are sensational. They're not all in Hermes Pan. They're not all in the stage version, but they're fantastic in the film.
And obviously you have White Christmas coming up now as well.
And I didn't just say that for that.
No, I was going to say, I love White Christmas coming too.
No, I really do. Obsessed, because when it was on before in the West End, I was so upset thinking, oh, well, I'm never going to get the chance to do it.
Yeah.
And then it came around, so that's...
How does that work, Stephen? When there are shows that do have iconic choreography attached to them, how does it work that then you go, well, can you take the iconic moments, or do you just go, no, it's my version?
Well, I did Sweet Charity with Thames in Outhwaite, and we didn't use the bar. We had girls on stools. And the Frug we did, not with the girl with the ponytail, but had a fabulous girl called Ebony Molina who had a massive afro. And so we kind of tilt your hat, but don't do it the same.
Yeah.
Gypsy was hard because anything with Jerome Robbins choreography, the lawyers, but it had just finished then, I think. So I think I was the first one to choreograph Gypsy without the original choreography in the West End or Broadway version. And I think they wanted us to keep strippers, as it were, which says what it does on the tin, I'm afraid, that one. And they wanted us to keep the trenches, but they had a curtain. We didn't have one, so we had to create a new version. So that was it. They didn't have anything. Everything else was all me, new.
Because it's quite tricky, isn't it? Because there was a recent production of, it was West Side Story, where, of course, they took all of the sort of choreography and a lot of the original music out of it.
Yeah.
And there were some people that were going, yes, this, and again, this is why it's art, it's different taste, but some people going, what is this?
Yeah. I think I'd be scared to do West Side. Although I saw a great version in Manchester.
Did you?
Yeah, Alita Collins. And I just thought I'd be too close to the original.
Yeah.
I think because of my musicality.
And also, it can't be much fun, I suppose, just having to essentially dig up another choreographer's
I wouldn't do
work.
that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want to do that, I'm afraid.
And your last question for my favourite thing is, what would be your luxury item?
I think it would be my tap shoes.
What, from when you were 3 years old?
When I was 3. That's how gay I am. I've got my
just to hang on the Christmas
tree. Just hang on a tree.
Hello, this is Simon Lipkin, and you are listening to the Show People podcast with Andrew Keats. Or you're not listening to it. And these are just the voices in your head. Oh, shit.
Well, it is now time for everyone's favourite part of the show, Funny 5 Minutes. Stephen Mear, you must answer all of the questions I'm about to ask you as quickly as possible within 5 minutes. You are only allowed 3 passes, but remember to use them wisely, as during this time, I'm going to ask you some of the most obscure, random, and frankly outrageous questions you may ever have been asked before. Stephen Mear, let's play Funny 5 Minutes. This is a very, very silly game. Stephen Mear, what's your favourite dinosaur?
Tyrannosaurus.
How do you take your tea?
White, non-sugar.
And what is the most expensive thing you've ever bought?
Vivienne Westwood watch.
Vivienne Westwood watch. I noticed is that the one you're wearing today? Oh, you'll have to show me that in a minute. Oh, it's gorgeous. That is good. Anyway, I'll keep going. It matches my lounge beautifully. If you were an animal, what animal would you be?
I'd be a dog.
Dog, which kind?
Cockapoo.
Just because of the pun. What is your least favourite television show?
Least favourite? Casualty.
What? No, I'm not asking you that. Do you have a favourite sport?
A support?
Sport, not a
support.
You've got a dance belt, dear. Yes.
I used to love hockey.
Hockey? That's a bit... Really?
Bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, I never think it was a hockey. Yeah. Anyway. Let's do... Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What?
I love
Toby Page of the Show People podcast is looking over disapprovingly. Do you believe in aliens?
No.
You worked with a couple, I can tell you that. Our most famous question, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
One horse-sized duck.
And the reason for this?
Because it's one.
It's just one. It's just one. Who was your teenage crush?
David Cassidy.
David Cassidy! It was Petula Clark, and you know it. If you can order a pizza, what would your order be?
Oh, Hawaiian pizza. I'm boring.
See, I get angry when people say you can't have... like, pineapple on a pizza is fine, people. Yeah. Get over it. Andrew Lloyd Webber or Stephen Sondheim?
Or Sondheim.
I'm sure you would tell Mr. Webber as well.
Yeah, I won't tell him. I've worked with him. Don't worry. I won't say.
Loves them both equally,
Love them
everyone.
I've worked with them.
Choreographer's question here. Is line dancing cool?
Oh, I think so.
Do you think a swan could actually break someone's arm?
Yes.
No, it can't.
Can you not? I thought with their necks could. I thought they could.
No, absolutely.
I was told that as a child.
But whilst doing swan left. Do you believe in ghosts?
Yes.
You do. So you don't believe in aliens, but you do believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I do believe there's something.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
No.
What was your... What's the strangest thing you've ever had in your mouth?
Strangest thing I've had in my mouth? Oh, I don't know. I nearly choked on a rubber at the end of a pencil.
Rubber? Oh, I see.
At the end of a pencil.
Who was the greatest Doctor Who?
Pete Davison.
Of course, because you worked with him in Gypsy. Sum Donald Trump up in one word.
Arsehole. Sorry, Mother.
No, sorry, Mum. How many pairs of shoes do you own?
Oh my God, I'd say about 20.
20?
Yeah.
And does that include dance shoes as well? Would you ever like to swim with sharks?
Never.
Why would you?
No.
Horrible things. What is your favourite Disney film? Little Mermaid. What is your most annoying habit?
I think cracking my fingers.
Oh, I do that.
I do it without realising something.
But do you get people respond? They go, oh, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You think,
but I don't even like it.
What is your favourite theatre in the world?
I think Germany.
Yeah, it's mine too. It's just the history, isn't it? If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Being invisible.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a superpower?
It is. Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty super if you can do that. It's also the perviest of all the superpowers.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Fair dues.
Sadly, that sound tells me that is the end of the show. Thank you to Jamie Singlin for sending us in his song From Summer. Well done to Bulb for making it into our first act. Don't forget, visit bulb.me/AndrewKO302. But, ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for the one, the only, Dr. Stephen Mear. Thank you so much for coming on the show, darling.
Thank you.
Oh, I've had such a lot. I'm going to use some dinner now because you've been working all day. Stephen, how can people keep up to date with all that you are up to?
Either, I suppose, Twitter or Instagram. I suppose I post things that I'm doing. And I have a website.
What's the Twitter username? You can't remember, can you?
It's just Stephen.Mear.
That's your Instagram account, but your Twitter account is at Stephen Mear. Don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Keats. You can follow the show at Show People UK. And guess what? I am on Instagram. Yes, so if you want to see pictures behind the scenes or indeed pictures of Toby Page, the Show People podcast, well, you can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Andrew Keats and at Show People Podcast. We're also on the Book of Face if you visit facebook.com/Show People Podcast, where you can join the listeners group and chat to other fans of the show. This podcast is produced by Avian Productions Limited, dedicated to giving opportunities to you sexy theatre makers. If you would like to support the show, please visit www.arian-productions.com/shop or /donate, where you can either make a donation or you can buy one of our fabulous Show People podcast mugs and pens. Finally, and I can't believe this, the thousands of you that are now listening to the show, all I can say is thank you so much. So we can reach so many other listeners all over the world, please take just 2 minutes and visit the Apple Podcasts app and do leave us a little review. It'll take about 1 minute to do, and it really does affect those magical Apple algorithms. Or indeed, if you're listening on any other platform, please do leave us a lovely review. All of the things discussed will be included in the show notes. Do check those out. Thank you so much for listening. We have another wonderful guest in the next 2 weeks. I will see you then. But until next time, show people, just be better. Ladies and gentlemen, that noise tells me that is the end of the show. I can't find my script, so I'm going to need to start that again. Bollocks. Right, here we go. One of my favourite musicals, and I think it's so undervalued. Toby, do you want to come and say hello? Come on. Oh, this manner is vague and aloof. You'd think there was nobody shy. There we go. Stephen Ward. The musical. Why